Hi everyone, I'm Eric Lane Barnes, and I've been good friends, better than good friends with Elyse ever since she and I were at University of Michigan together over 750 years ago. Elyse introduced me to her parents. They lived close to University of Michigan, and I loved them right away, and I had a sense that they loved me right away. Hal and Meme were like second parents to me, and I would often refer to myself as their goyish son. I had gefilte fish for the first time at a deli with Harold taking us to this deli. And I eventually felt so a part of the family that I kind of adopted Summer's lore. For instance, I know that Big Grandma eventually became smaller than Small Grandma, and I know that Aunt Audrey lives in Albany. And these are things that I just have as part of my own greater family knowledge. And I loved comparing the experience of going to my parents' house in Michigan on break and then going from there to Hal and Memes. At my own parents' house, people would be sitting in corners reading quietly to themselves, literally. And maybe every 20 minutes or so, somebody would look up from their book and ask some kind of a basic question. Very reserved, very quiet people, very good people. But then I'd go to Hal and Meme's house, and there's Harold at the door, and he's saying, "Hey, what are you working on right now? What are you playing? Here, taste this. It's good, right? Hey, sit down. There's something I've been meaning to ask you." And just instant engagement. I knew with Harold that he was interacting with me because he cared. He wanted to know what I thought. He wanted to know what I was thinking. And that was so good for me. It was a level of engagement that I hadn't really had from adults at that point in my life. And it really meant a lot to me. Hal and Meme. Now, the term Hal and Meme, I thought everybody called them Hal and Meme, but apparently it's something that only I have called them, according to Elyse. So I welcome you all to call them Hal and Meme, TM. They would come and see recitals and concerts that I would do at University of Michigan. I was a music major. And then I graduated and moved to Chicago. And then they would come to Chicago and they would see shows and concerts that I was doing in Chicago. And we'd go out to dinner and we'd talk about music and life and food. And it was wonderful. I loved spending time with them. Harold made me a mixtape. I think he made me a few mixtapes, but one I remember, all of the songs on the mixtape had to do with food, which was fitting for Harold being the nosher that he was. And it's funny that out of all of my musical and theatrical connections, it was Harold Summers that introduced me to Sweeney Todd. And Sweeney Todd remains my favorite musical, but it was on this mixtape through the song A Little Priest that I first experienced Sweeney Todd. And I asked him, what is that? What's that from? And he told me about the show, and I've loved it ever since. And of course, Elyse has made mixtapes for me, or she did at least when mixtapes were a thing, and introduced me to Elvis Costello and Jane Siberry, and I will always be grateful for her for that. So I do joke that I was Hal and Meme's goyish son, but there was truth in that. Harold spoke to me as if he was truly interested in what I thought, as if I mattered as a human being. And the world of love that Harold extended to me truly helped shape who I am today. And even though I don't think Harold ever said the words, "I love you," to me, he had indicated this in so many ways. I knew that he loved me and that he cared about me and thought I was interesting, funny, smart, and all that. And I only hope that Harold knows that I felt the same about him. And I hope he knows that his legacy of love will be with me for the rest of my life.